Welcome back to Lara Academy's Building a Blog series. Let's take a look at what we currently have built. In our blog, we can see we have an index page, and we also, last series, implemented some authorization. So this allows us to log in. And once we log in here, we're just brought back to our simple index page. And what we need to do is find a way where we can, as the administrator, create these posts. So let's go ahead and load up our editor. And we want to navigate over to our administration routes. You can see that we have a whole bunch already added here, and this is from a previous series. So what we want to do is open up this blog controller. And in this blog controller, you can see we have an index and edit already. Now what we're going to do is, first off, we're going to make sure that we can get to this index. So I'm going to copy this route, go over to our navigation, and I'm just going to add another list item as long as we are logged in. So I'm just going to make a URL route to administration blog and give it a name. Now I'm going to save this and just head back to Chrome and give it a refresh just to make sure that everything's working. Now that we visited that route, you can see that we are just returning some simple text. And it's just shown by the blog controller itself that we do have a simple return. Now one of the things we want to make sure that we handle is the middleware. We don't want to be having guests log into our system. So we can use this authenticate.php, which is by default in Laravel, to make sure that we are not a guest. To do this, we'll just say this middleware and we'll put in auth. And you can verify this by going to the kernel.php and going down to the bottom and seeing that the authenticate class is there. Now to try this out, we can go ahead and we can save this file. Switching over to our blog, let's just go back to the home page and log out here. And if we put in that route again, administration blog, it'll kick us over to the login screen. And that is exactly what we want. So let's just log back in just so we can keep going. Now let's change this return into a view. So let's just say return view administration.blog.index. So this means that we're going to have to create a new folder inside our views for administration. So we'll say new folder, administration, and following down the path, we're going to also have to create one for our blog. And finally, let's create a index.blade.php file. This will be our actual template itself. So with this new blade file, I'm just going to copy this section and the extends from another page. And I'm just going to have some containers. So the first one here is just going to be a title, just say administration. And the next one's going to be a table, which is going to house all of our posts that we have published and not published yet. So again, this is some pretty basic HTML. So we're just creating a table, and let's do some table headers. We'll have a title, link, status, whether or not it was published, a publish at, and then there are actions. I'm going to wrap this in a header. And the next thing, for a T-body, we want to make sure that we're going to go through all of our posts. And then for each of the posts, we're going to output the title. Let's do the slug. And we'll change this to an if statement. So if it is published, we'll say published, otherwise not published. And we'll also have a published at date. We'll just format it a little bit differently. And underneath we'll have just actions. And we'll fill that in later. Now what we have to do here is we have to create that post variable for our view. So we'll say post all, and we'll make sure that we import this. And actually I don't want to use post all. I want to do a order by here. I'll do published at. And next I want to do is pass those posts into our blade. So I can go ahead and I can save this. When I come back and I give it a refresh, you can see that now we have a table. And the only thing that's wrong here is our published at dates are not in the right order. So let's switch back to our text editor here. And let's add a descending on the end. So save that and give it another refresh. And you can see that everything's working now. So now that we have everything displaying, this looks pretty good, but what we need is a button to create a post. So let's go ahead and let's head over to our index page again. And let's just bring down this header, and we're going to just do a pull to the right. And we're just going to create a basic button. And we'll give it a class of button and button success. And let's save that and see how it looks. So that looks actually really good. So let's go and make the route match up to our /create. So let's go ahead and grab that, head back over to our index, and change the href to URL route, and paste that in. So if we come back and we click on that button, see we have a method create does not exist. And that's just something that we need to do. So let's head on over to our blog controller again, and let's add that method in. So underneath index, we'll just do a public function create. And this is going to be a simple one, and we're just going to return a view, and we'll be inside administration blog.create. So what we need to do is create that administration blog create blade file. Let's go ahead and make a new file. Let's call it create.blade.php. And again, this is going to be some basic HTML, so we're going to kind of fly through here. So we'll just stop our section, make sure that our view is working. And it's working, so let's go back and let's start adding some form controls here. So we're going to come back and fill in our form, but for now we'll need a form group for our title, and the next thing we're going to need is a form group for the content. And we're actually going to be using a plugin, and it's going to be called SummerNote. So what SummerNote is it's a WYSIWYG. So what you see is what you get. So let's go ahead and just download SummerNote here. When we open it up, you can see we have a whole bunch of different files, but we want everything inside dist here, or at least the minimum JavaScript package. So let's browse to our folder here, our directory, and inside public in assets, I'm actually going to make a new folder just called SummerNote, and I'm going to drop the minimal JavaScript and the rest of the files in there, and now we need to put them into our system. So in our text editor, if we take a look at the master file, you see we don't have anything where we can put in a style sheet. We have one for scripts, so let's go ahead and let's yield CSS. So what this allows us to do is in our create we can have a section for CSS, and we can have a link in here. So this is just letting us apply this style sheet for this particular page. So it won't exist in the master or any other pages. It will only exist in our current create page. So go public SummerNode, and let's grab the CSS. And we're also going to need one for the script, so our JavaScript. So let's just pull that in as well. We'll make the source equal, it's basically going to be the same here, so just copy it, and we want .min.js. Let's go ahead and give that a save, and let's check out the documentation on how we can get SummerNote working here. So if we scroll down, we can see it's a very easy call. It just calls SummerNote itself. So in here, let's have a text area and give it a name of content and the ID of SummerNote. Alright, let's add our JavaScript here. So we'll make a new script tag, just a basic jQuery function here, and we'll just say SummerNote equals SummerNote, and let's use the ID instead of a class. Let's go ahead and save that, give it a refresh, and something's not right here, so let's do an inspect. And I can see that I messed up here. So instead of public, because we're already in there, we want assets. Let's give it a look in Chrome, and you can see there it is, working beautifully. So the next step, we need to create a save button just to submit our form. So let's go ahead and switch over back to our text editor. We'll make a new form group, and let's have an input. I'm very sorry about my typing, so input type submit. We'll just say save post. And if you remember from a previous video, we need that CSRF field. So let's just go ahead and copy it. And the next thing we want to do is add our method of post. In the action, if we take a look in our route, we'll have URL administrator.store. And before we create that post, let's head back into our blog controller. And let's make the function store, and we'll use the request variable, which you should have at the top here. And all we're going to do is we're going to make sure that everything's being passed in. So we'll just do a dine dump request all. So let's save that, give our page a refresh, type in some random information, and let's click on Save Post. And there you have it. So now we have all this HTML, we also have our title. The next thing we should do is we should create some rules for our post itself. So inside the store function, we'll make a variable for rules, and it's just an array, and we want to make sure we have rules for title and content. So let's start off with title, and we'll say that it is required, and we'll do the same for content, just so nothing can be blank. And what I'm going to be using is just the controller validate. So I will say this validate, and I want to validate the request with the rules variable that we have assigned. So if something goes wrong and it is not valid, Laravel will kick it back with the user input to the previous page. So we have to go back to our create blade, and we have to add some values for the old variables, or the old input I should say. So we have one for title here, and we're also going to need one for the content. And for some reason, if there is an error, we need to show the user that they have errors. So what we can do is we can include our partial. Now if you remember our partial, it will be found underneath resources, views, layouts, and then partials. So again, let's say layouts.partials.messages. Now that we have the rules and validation in place, let's go ahead and try out some information here. So you can see that the rules are working great, and our values are being restored if there is an error. So let's just add a title and make sure we have some content. And let's click on Save Post. Now let's put this information into our database. So the easiest way to do this is let's just create a post record here in our database. So we will actually just say post create. And what we need to pass it, if we look at the model, is all this information here. Well, actually not all of it, but let's just paste it in. And I'll just align these up. And the title we will get from our request variable. And that is the same for our content. And the slug is going to be our title, but we're going to use a str slug, which is a Laravel function. And its published is false. And we don't actually need to put a published at date. So once that's all been saved, let's go ahead and let's just return the user back to the administration index. So let's go over to our route, grab administration.blog, throw it in, clean up the code, and normally what you would have here is a little flash message or a success message just showing that the post has been created. Want to make sure that we are able to use a redirect. Let's go ahead and hit save. Let's go back, click save, and you can see that now we have a post in here with our title, link, the status, and is published is null. That's why it's the weird date. So far everything looks really good and it's come together nicely. Let's tackle the ability to edit a post. So inside our index for our administration, let's create a new button, and we'll give it the URL of route and administration edit, and you'll notice that route we're going to pass an ID in. So we'll say post ID, just say edit post. So save that and give it a refresh. You can see that we have our buttons here, and when we click it, we have some boilerplate already. So in our blog controller, what we need to do is we need to first look up that post, and I'll be using where post equals the ID and making sure that we have the first one. So if we do not find the post, or if post is empty, we want to redirect back to this administration block. So we'll redirect a route. However, if we have the post, we're going to return a view of blog.edit, and we're just going to pass that variable in. So now we have to create administration blog edit. So let's go to min blog, save as the edit, and let's just copy the create blade file here and paste it in and do a few changes. So we'll change our title, say updating, give it the title, and let's also change the route, which is just administration update. We're also going to have to pass in a hidden field for the ID. So this is the post that we're actually updating. There are multiple ways to do this. This is just the easiest. And with the old variable, if there's nothing in it, we want to put in the current contacts. And that should be it. So when we do a refresh, you can see we have everything here. And let's go and do a quick update function. And we'll use the request variable again. And in here, let's do some rules. So let's actually copy half of our crate. And the new rule that we're going to have is the ID. The ID is required and it must exist. And it needs to exist in our post table with the field of ID. And like I said, there's always multiple ways to look this up. But we're just going to use this way for now. So the next thing we need to do is we need to find that post. It's where the ID is equal to the request ID that we have. And we'll just grab the first one. And the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to update that post. So we will just have a post variable. And let's update the content to whatever we pass in. So we'll say request input content. And let's actually do one for the title as well. And if you wanted to, you could also update the slug, but we're not going to update the slug in this case just because I don't want it to change. And finally, let's save the post. And again, let's redirect back to the home. And let's save it and let's give it a change here. Let's make sure everything is working. We'll just give it a title change and we'll do an update. There you go. You can see the title has changed, and if we edit the post, there's our changes. We'll carry on this administration in the next video. Thanks.